Hi, my name is Becky Jennings, and this is the ResponseABLE Parenting Podcast. I give you the transformational tools to stop reacting to your children in the moment and start responding with intention.
Before we dive into the episode, I want to share my free guide to managing our kids' meltdowns. We know that meltdowns are normal, but they still suck and can be ridiculously triggering. This 4-step free guide will help you break the cycle of reactivity and help you get through the meltdown without snapping yourself. Don't join your kid in the tantrum. Grab my free guide and learn how to manage meltdowns like a pro. Head to responsablepparenting.ck.page/meltdown, or just go and click the link in my show notes and get your guide today. Okay, let's get to the episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of ResponseABLE Parenting. My name is Becky Jennings. I'm your host, and today we are talking about a very hot topic, which is respect. This is something that I get pretty harsh criticism on in my Instagram feed and my social media feeds, is that I'm not doing enough to teach respect to my children, that my children have to learn respect. That's what they have to learn because that's what you have to show adults in the real world. And that if we don't focus on respect in the household, then how they're going to be these juvenile delinquents who are causing so many issues in society, and they're going to be the downfall of the education system, and it goes on and on and on. But what I hear from these comments is this very deep desire to have respect shown to elders. And it really made me start thinking about, what is respect actually? I think respect has come along hand in hand with this rigid set of rules and guidelines and parameters that must be followed to the letter. And if they are not, it is a complete sign of disrespect. If the pleases and the thank yous don't happen immediately on cue with the tone that's supposed to happen, it's disrespectful. If a hat isn't taken off in a library, it's disrespectful. If somebody doesn't hug grandma or grandpa or show them so much love and affection and adoration within minutes of seeing them, then it's disrespectful. But where is this coming from? Why are these so necessary? And I think I have a couple thoughts here. One, specifically, it puts a lot of pressure on the child whose brain is developing. They're just starting to figure out parts of themselves and how they feel, and their learning systems and dynamics. It puts a lot of pressure on the child to be the person that satisfies the needs within you to feel a certain way. And I think that's very unfair and really unrealistic to believe that the child is going to be the source of that fulfillment within. I feel like, personally, if that is something that you need in order to feel good, you should find that outside of a young child, because they might not always have the capacity to perform exactly as you expect. And that also brought up another thought: is respect performative? It seems like it very much is, that you have to say a certain script, you have to do it in a certain way at a certain time at certain places. So that becomes almost performance versus a feeling of desire and connection and wanting to do something nice for somebody. And so when I think about respect, I personally like the word kindness a lot more. How can we spend more time teaching our children about what it's like to be kind to somebody, why you would be kind to somebody, what are kind activities and actions that you can do with somebody or for somebody? What does kindness look like to yourself? What feels good in your body? Starting to understand and teach what it's like to be in a group dynamic and making sure people feel taken care of, and learning how to stand up for your own boundaries and work in a group setting to be able to commingle in the same room as 80, 90-year-old grandparents and your 3-year-old child. That's a huge range of expectations and cognitive abilities. So putting all of the pressure on the child to perform exactly the way this unspoken system of respect is demanding doesn't seem fair. But I do think they understand kindness a lot more. I think that they can tell in shows, in books, movies, in dynamics in the home. They know what feels good and what doesn't. They know what bullying looks like and doesn't. And the more we talk about looking out for ways to be kind, I think respect will follow suit. I think the act of showing up in a kind way is also the act of showing up in a respectful way. And I think when we demand respect, we are asking them to perform a very truncated version of themselves. We're asking them to perform a much smaller scope and scale of human feelings and emotions and abilities. We're actually asking them to dull themselves down for our convenience. We're asking them to be smaller so that we can feel like we're in a position of power. We're asking our children to take on the burden of making us feel good because we feel like respect is important. As we know, it takes a village to raise our children, but more and more, we are doing the entire job on our own, and that stops today. I have created a parent community app focused directly on giving you essential support tools. The ResponseABLE Parenting Community Group is available now. In this community, you will have more parenting strategies right at your fingertips. You'll have direct access to me and my coaching every month in our live Q&As, where you can bring your burning parenting questions and get my real-time support. I will host monthly exclusive workshops, facilitate weekly skill-building exercises, and more. This space is designed to meet you where you are at on your parenting journey. It's a judgment-free zone with parents and caregivers who are learning and growing right alongside of you. For less than $1 a day, you will have access to exclusive parenting content and coaching. I cannot wait to be a bigger part of your parenting journey. Head over to ResponseABLEParenting.com to join today. Enter promo code PODCAST to receive $10 off your first month. That's PODCAST for $10 off your first month. These are things that we actually need to think about and talk about when we say, you're not allowed to talk to me like that. Show your parent more respect. Well, then let's dial that back and reverse engineer it. You want your child to speak to you in a certain way because of maybe feelings that it brings up for you, maybe the desire that you have for your child to be kind in the way that they approach conflict. But what skills are you teaching them? How are you modeling that show up? How are you teaching conflict resolution in your household? So we actually have to take more of that ownership when we feel like our child is showing up out of the contained area of respect. Where's our responsibility there? What did we do to contribute to that? And how can we reflect and start to take an assessment of, okay, these are the areas that my child actually doesn't have skills in. I haven't done a good enough job modeling this. I need to step up my efforts modeling this. We need to practice this outside of the heat of the moment so that we can actually gain skills around this and work together to build up this area that I feel like will be beneficial in a job setting, in a future relationship, because it's not actually always on the child to just magically know what this word respect looks like, feels like, all of that. And then when we are asking them to model perfect respect by doing, saying things that maybe they're not comfortable with doing, we need to look internally and say, why does it matter for my child to do this in front of those people? Is it because it reflects poorly on me if my child isn't performing perfectly? Does that show that I haven't done a good enough job? Does that ruffle my parents' feathers if my children don't do exactly what they're asking? And does that make me feel like the small kid again? We need to look back at why we start feeling the way we feel. Why are we so triggered about the topic of respect? And stop putting it on our children to just constantly perform this antiquated word of respect? What is your value that you are trying to teach from? I think kindness really takes care of all of those needs that are wrapped up in the word respect. But kindness is also a two-way street, right? If you're constantly showing respect to somebody who is not a great person and treating you poorly, then why? Why are we still showing this person respect? Because they're an authority member or figure? Because they're older? Because they're in a position of power? And then what are we actually teaching our child about what respect is? Respect then is distorted and morphed into it's how you show up to a person in power or an older person or an authority figure. That's actually respect, is just this performative dance and words that you say to this person to make them feel good. But it doesn't actually feel good for me as the person doing it. And it's really not doing anything for them either, except bolstering a bigger ego. So we have to look at why respect, the word respect, is so important. And can you pivot and teach based off the value that you're kind of adding to respect, and see if that is a more efficient place to teach these skills from? I know that my kids, we don't really talk about the word respect. I don't know if they could actually pin down the definition of respect, but they can definitely tell me what is kind and what is not kind. And they definitely know when they cross a boundary outside of our value system. And they definitely know what it looks like to come back and repair. And they definitely know when they have moved outside of our comfort zone and how to come back in. And those, to me, feel like stronger skills in future relationships with teachers, with future bosses, than just this limited spectrum of behavior that is expected when we talk about respect. I'm sure I'm going to hear a lot of stuff, a lot of opinions on this, but I just want to get your brain spinning on maybe a different way to look at the word respect and see if a better value could be your foundation from which you teach these important lessons. So thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for listening to the ResponseABLE Parenting Podcast. If you like what you heard, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. If you know someone who would benefit from this podcast, I'd be honored if you'd share this episode with them. Until next time, know that you are enough, you are capable, you've made it through all of your hardest days, and we will keep growing on this parenting journey together. This podcast was produced by Kim Kelty and myself, Becky Jennings, and edited by the Kelty Method, Branding and Podcasting.